Back in the late 80s, my husband and I moved into a cabin in the woods. It was completely isolated, making it the perfect place to settle down and raise a family. I was also 9 months pregnant at the time and looking forward to being a mother. I couldn't move around much due to my severe back pain, so most of the days were spent lying in bed with my bare feet elevated to prevent swelling. And if I ever needed to get somewhere, my husband would always have to help me up. There was a lot that I had to get used to. And I don't just mean the usual stuff like weird cravings or having a big belly. There was also the feeling of, or for lack of a better word, helplessness that came with being pregnant that I didn't know about. Like, for example, not being able to close my legs without hurting myself. Seriously, even crossing my legs was an impossible chore. So, for the sake of comfort, I had to keep my legs spread as far apart as possible, at all times. Not that my husband minded, but I digress. So yeah, 99% of the time I was on my back, legs open, and feet up, like I was going into labor or something. And as much as I hated being in such a vulnerable position, my husband did everything to make me feel comfortable and safe. One time my husband had to work overtime at the local ranger station, leaving me home alone for the night. I was used to my husband working at night, to be honest, so that wasn't a problem for me. I kissed him goodbye, changed into my pajamas, and climbed into bed, then dozed off. At around midnight, I woke up to the sound of a vehicle pulling up on my driveway and 2 headlights shining through my window. I let out a yawn and rolled onto my side, then peered out the window next to my bed. What I saw was a rusty old pickup truck parked in front of my house and 4 men standing at my door. They were all dressed in black and staring right back at me through the window. One of them shouted, "Could you please open the door, ma'am? We know you're alone in there. My friends and I haven't had a bite to eat all day. And there's nothing more filling than a nice, juicy pregnant woman," he said while hungrily licking his lips. I kept silent, trembling in fear of what I just heard. Who were these men? I'd never seen them before in my life, yet they knew I was pregnant and that I was alone. But more importantly, they wanted to eat me, including my unborn child. I needed to escape, but I wasn't in any condition to run. And even if I could run, where would I go? I lived in the woods, miles away from town, didn't have a landline, and my husband had the car. Also, it was 20 degrees outside. How far could I possibly get while wearing a nightgown and barefoot? One of the men started banging on the door violently, so I rolled out of bed and fell on the floor, landing flat on my butt. I wasn't exaggerating when I said I needed my husband to help me stand up. My back pain was so intense that I couldn't get up even if my life depended on it, and it most certainly did in that case. As embarrassing as it sounds, all I could do was crab walk across the floor, basically crawling on all fours in a belly-up position. Using my hands and feet, I crab walked out of my room, went into the hallway, and headed straight for the basement, thinking it would have been a good hiding spot. I couldn't sit up enough to reach the doorknob, but thankfully the basement door was slightly ajar. I kicked it open and crawled in as the man continued banging on the front door. Once I was inside the basement, I found myself sitting at the top of a long stairway, but I didn't feel like going further down. I just quietly closed the door behind me, letting it click shut, and then laid flat on my back. Even though it was only for a few seconds, crab walking with a big belly was exhausting, and lying down in a prone position gave me some relief. So I just stayed like that on the top step, breathing heavy while thinking of what to do next. That's when I heard movement at the base of the stairs, followed by a light switch being flipped on, filling the basement with light. With wide, fear-filled eyes, I tilted my head up to look down at the last step, and to my absolute horror, 3 men were standing there looking straight at me. I let out a blood-curdling scream when I saw them. I was so worried about the guy being at the front door that I didn't realize the other men already found a way inside. I sat up as best as I could and raised my hands above my head, trying to reach the doorknob while maintaining eye contact with the men. But I couldn't reach it. The men must have figured out right away that I couldn't stand up, or even sit up, because they all started laughing at me. To them, I must have looked like a helpless turtle lying on its shell, unable to turn over. Their laughter then quickly turned into hateful comments about my body, as if they wanted to get under my skin before finishing me off. To make me feel even lower, they even took jabs at my inability to close my legs. Needless to say, I felt totally exposed with them being wide open in that situation. "Look at all that fresh meat," one of them said while loudly licking his lips. "Yeah, we're gonna eat like kings tonight," said another. "I call first bite," said the third guy. "That belly looks so plump and juicy, I just gotta sink my teeth into it." Hearing these men casually talk about eating me and my unborn child was terrifying beyond words. And if that wasn't creepy enough, the men started climbing the stairs on all fours, one after the other, like a pack of wolves. They were taking their sweet time doing so, salivating as I continued to reach for the doorknob. But it was no use. After a few seconds, I got tired and fell flat on my back yet again. With no weapons around to defend myself with, I did the only thing I could think of. I raised both of my bare feet in the air and bent my knees back like I was getting ready to kick. "If you come one step closer, I'll kick you in the face," I threatened. The men stopped for a moment and glanced at my feet, then back at me, and just started laughing. Of course they didn't take me seriously. A crying pregnant woman lying on her back with her bare feet raised in the air isn't very intimidating to begin with. That, combined with the fact I was shaking from head to toe and looked like I was going to pee myself at any second, just made me look even more non-threatening. "Is this the part where we run away?" one man asked in a mocking tone as he continued ascending the stairs. "The last two women we killed actually had guns pointed at us. And you think we're gonna run away from your two little bare feet? How amusing." Hearing that filled me with dread, but I kept the soles of my feet aimed in their direction, waiting for them to make a move. When the first man got close enough, I kicked him in the face as hard as I could, sending him rolling down the stairs. But the second man jumped over him and lunged toward me. I kicked again, but this time he caught my foot mid-kick, then brought it up to his face. The man focused his gaze on my bare foot and then smiled at me. "Nice try, but not good enough. Now we're gonna eat you alive. And since you like kicking so much, I'll start with this tasty-looking foot." And with that, he opened his mouth like he was ready to take a bite. I screamed and was about to kick him with the other foot, but the third man grabbed that one as well. Please let me go. I promise I won't tell anyone," I begged. "Let you go? Why would we ever let you go?" The man laughed as he halted his attack on my foot. "We're about to have dinner." Before I knew it, several hands were clawing at my nightgown, ripping it right off of my body in seconds. "No, please," I sobbed as I was left in just my panties and bra. I'd never felt so humiliated and scared in my life. I felt my skin crawl as the men drooled over me, staring hungrily at my belly. They held my wrists and ankles down, so all I could do was struggle in vain. "Gentlemen, dinner is now served, so let's dig in," he said calmly. Just when I thought I was going to die, I heard 2 gunshots outside, followed by my husband's voice calling my name. "I'm in the basement," I shouted back as loud as I could. I could hear my husband's footsteps racing towards me, and so could the men, which is why they let me go and started running down the stairs. They knew my husband was armed, so they slipped out through the cellar door. When my husband entered the basement, he looked down at me with concern and helped me to my feet. I told him about the 3 men and he chased after them. Unfortunately, they made it back to their pickup truck and sped off. We never saw them again after that, but my husband did manage to shoot the one at the front door. Cops were called, but nothing ever came of it, and we moved on. I have since given birth to a healthy baby girl who now has a life of her own in the city, and my husband and I are still living peacefully in the cabin to this day, albeit with extra locks on our windows and doors, and a landline, just for good measure. I'm curious to hear if you got this story right. You can let me know in the comments whether or not you did, and the answer is this is a true story, and it was submitted to me. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to check out more episodes, you can go to youtube.com/@Creepify.